All right, I'm just going to come out and say it. I am so sick and tired of seeing all these Instagram travel creator gurus trying to sell you advice on how to create a career in the travel content industry when they themselves have never actually done it. And there's some telltale signs that they're trying to sell you a lifestyle and not a real business. I mean, they'll talk about building a huge following and hoping that the brands come knocking down your door and wanting to pay you thousands of dollars. And when they don't, well, then here's my $29 ebook. Just buy this, copy and paste my templates. And then all of a sudden, like magic, you'll get paid by the brands. That sounds like a dream, right? The problem is that's exactly what it is. It's a pipe dream that not even these people could accomplish. I mean, I'd even venture to say that 90% of the people teaching how to get collabs and brand deals have never actually figured out how to create a sustainable career for themselves. And the key word there is sustainable. Because I mean, sure, it's easy to get a few free trade or barter projects, or maybe even get paid on a few projects, maybe 1 to 2 paid gigs, and then all of a sudden now you're an industry expert and you're selling your advice. But in reality, if you've only gotten paid 1 or 2 times, or even only 5 times, that's not a career. That's like a side gig. That's a hobby. And meanwhile, I have clients like Andrew, for example, who over the last 4 months has grown his business to over $72,000, which is $18,000 a month, doing the exact opposite that most of these creator gurus teach. So in this video, I'm going to share 5 things that your favorite creator guru probably won't tell you so you don't waste your time on tactics that don't work. And instead, I'll give you 5 things that you should focus on so you can actually build a sustainable career and actually make a living doing this. And by the way, this is coming from someone who's been doing it for the last 5 years professionally, so I have a little bit of experience in this realm. But before we jump into those 5 things, let's first define exactly what I mean by a travel creator, because travel is a broad genre. There's all kinds of different things. There's restaurants, luxury travel, adventure, different excursions. Like there's all kinds of different things, but really it boils down to 2 main categories. So the first side is influencers, and the second side is content creators. Now you might be able to mix these things like I personally have done myself, but in reality, there's those 2 camps. So on the one hand over here, we have influencers. So their goal is to get as many followers, as many views, as much engagement as they possibly can so they can spike their rates for ads that they sell to brands. Now, on the other side, we have the content creator, and this is somebody who doesn't care about followers, doesn't care about engagement for their own personal brand, but they more so care about selling sales assets to brands for their own personal marketing use. So this could be for the brand social page for sure, or it could be for their website, for ad campaigns, basically anything that the brand would need it for. So personally, I've done both. I've done the influencer side, I've done the content creator side, and both of them are good for different reasons. However, in terms of sustainability, I feel like the content creation side is a whole lot more sustainable. So that's where I'm going to go with this video. So here's 5 things that the creator gurus probably won't tell you about the travel creator industry, and 5 things that you should focus on instead. So the first thing you need to know is that if you want to get paid like a business, if you want to make this career, then you have to treat it like a business, which means you have to love it. So if you see some of these videos of people selling you the idea of constantly going to resorts, constantly swimming with dolphins, and doing all the most epic things, they're actually selling you on a lifestyle because they're playing on your emotions of wanting to be like them versus selling you the tangible skill set that it requires to be able to do that type of work. So personally, I love this industry. It's why I'm in it. And I'm well aware that if you look at my Instagram account, or anybody else for that matter, it probably looks like I'm constantly plane hopping, going new places, doing the most epic things all the time, which I definitely do those things, but that's not the reality of what the job is. Because 90% of the stuff that I do is actually on my computer, and it's the stuff that no one shares. It's the stuff like prospecting, outreach, sales, contracts, invoicing, client management, pre-production, all this stuff that you don't see that actually has to go into making this a business, but it's not the fun, sexy stuff, so no one shares it. So listen, if you're just looking for the lifestyle to go get a few free vacations, then this is not for you. You should probably just go get some kind of remote job and then book a trip to Costa Rica and stay there for a little bit. But if you truly love content creation, creating a business, and actually want to have a sustainable career, then you have to treat it as such. Which brings me to the second thing, which is this huge claim that so many people make, that is you just need a camera, you need a phone, you need a laptop, an internet connection, and you're good to go. When in reality, they forget to mention that you need skills and you need strategy to actually make things work. So I'll put it to you this way. Like imagine if you are a brand, right? And you get reached out to by some random person out of the blue that you don't know anything about wanting to do a shoot for you. So what is your immediate first response? Well, number 1, it'd probably be like, why do I even need this thing? Number 2 is, who is this person and why are they qualified, and have they done what they're telling me they want to do for me before? Dude, is there any proof? And to be honest, for most creators, they can't clearly articulate why a brand would need them, let alone what kind of results they'll actually get the brand or any kind of proof. So their pitch gets ignored, it gets marked as spam, thrown in the trash, and basically they never get a response. So at the very least, you need to know how to get client results, which means that you need to have an understanding of marketing, of content strategy, and you have to actually study that stuff and know what's working right now. Because the truth is, creating something that looks good, something that looks cinematic, that's one skill. It's definitely a skill set, right? But creating something that actually gets results for clients is a whole nother skill set. And by the way, you can even create something that goes viral well, but that doesn't mean it's going to get sales for a client. That just means it got a bunch of views. So there's a whole different aspect to this in terms of the content strategy that you have to know in order to be able to make this good career. And even on the off chance that you bamboozle some brand into hiring you without any experience, the chances of you actually getting on a retainer or doing any kind of repeat projects is slim to none, because you'll be exposed that you know absolutely nothing about what you're doing. So the only real way to create sustainability for yourself in this industry is to get good case studies. And the only way to get good case studies is to do spec work for the type of client you want to work with, which, yes, that means you're working for free, which I'll get to that in just a second in terms of how I would approach it for these free spec projects. But just know that you need to have good hard case studies of results, because if you don't, maybe you can get a few free stays, maybe some barter deals, whatever, but getting paid is going to be nearly impossible. And just for the record, a sneaky trick a lot of people use is they'll say something like, oh, I just scored a 3-night, $3,000 collab, which sounds great. But in reality, what that means is probably, the value of the room was $1,000. They stayed for 3 nights. That's worth $3,000. But guess what? They got paid zero. And in fact, they probably paid to go to that resort in terms of airfare and other, expenses that were involved. So in reality, they're actually losing money to work for the client. Makes no sense. So that brings me to the third thing, which is that there's a huge difference between getting a paid shoot and getting free collabs or barter deals or something like that. And the question becomes, well, why are these people that are professional, have great quality work, why aren't they getting paid? Why are they just getting these free collabs and teaching everyone how to get free stays? And to follow that up, I would ask you, well, what do you actually pay for? Like, what are you willing to pay for? Well, typically it's if it's a need, so something like food, shelter, basic necessities, or if it saves you money, time, or effort. Let me just share an example here. So back in the early 2010s, Wi-Fi was typically not free, right? You would have to either go buy an access token, or you would have to buy something at a shop, and then they would give you a receipt, and it has like a Wi-Fi access code, and then you would be able to use the Wi-Fi. So people would go to stores and purchase things just so they could get access to the Wi-Fi. And Starbucks saw a need, so they did something a little different. They actually installed free Wi-Fi into all of their shops so that people would be more enticed to go to Starbucks just simply because they had free Wi-Fi. Now, if we fast forward to today, free Wi-Fi is everywhere. Almost every shop, every restaurant, every cafe has free Wi-Fi. So if you go somewhere that doesn't have it, then you'll probably just skip it and walk down to the next cafe because they probably have access to it. So free Wi-Fi is expected. It's a commodity. It's everywhere. So in the same way, talented creators are a dime a dozen. They're a commodity. There's tons of them. They're everywhere. And there's tons of them that are willing to work for really cheap and even take free gigs just so they can post some cool pictures on their Instagram account. I mean, let's be honest. So this realization kind of hurt my feelings when I first realized it, but I had to get over it in order to be able to level up. But if a brand is not willing to pay you money, maybe it's just because you're not valuable enough yet. And I know, sounds crazy, but it's just true. Which brings me to the fourth point, which is that you gotta stop copying what everyone else is doing. I mean, think about it. If you're selling the exact same thing as everyone else, you're doing it in the exact same way as everyone else, then what incentive is there to hire you? And of course, the brand is just gonna find the next person to do it for cheaper. So in order to break this vicious cycle, you have to start doing the exact opposite of what everyone else is telling you to do. So I don't know about you, but I've seen so many viral reels where it's like, copy my outreach template or copy my brand contacts. And that sounds great, but guess what? You and 1,000 other people or 10,000 or 50,000 other people that watch that video are gonna do the exact same thing. So now imagine if you're just a brand manager sitting there at your computer and now all of a sudden you're bombarded by hundreds or even thousands of the exact same email. Guess what I would be doing? I'd be hitting spam, I'd be hitting delete on every single one of those. So you gotta stop copying everyone's template. Stop copying their outreach template. Stop copying their pitch deck. Stop copying everyone else because you're just doing yourself a disservice. So be creative, offer something better, offer something different, be creative in your outreach, be unique, be something different. So when somebody looks at what you have to offer, they're like, wow, I haven't seen that before. That's unique. Let me actually reply. Which brings me to the last thing that brings this whole conversation full circle, which is this is a business. So you got to treat it like a business, and businesses are all about the numbers. So we live in this society that's all about instant gratification, right? You post a video, all of a sudden you get hundreds, thousands, sometimes even hundreds of thousands of views, right? It's just an instant dopamine hit. And the problem is we apply that same logic and that same expectation to when we're trying to close deals. So we expect that every time we reach out to a brand that they're going to respond, or at least 80% of them are going to respond. We also expect that the vast majority of those will want to pay us money. I don't know why we have this expectation, but it's completely false. It's not even close to realistic, because watching a video, engaging with it, commenting, liking it is about the lowest effort of commitment that a person could possibly make. And if you're asking someone to pay you money, that requires a whole lot more trust, requires a whole lot more commitment than just engaging with a video, right? So here's some far more realistic, I would say even conservative numbers, so that you can have an idea of what this actually looks looks like in terms of the numbers. And this is just based on my personal experience. So let's say that you reach out to 1,000 brands. Now, most people will never have the patience to be able to do this. So if you reach out to 1,000 brands, you're already doing better than 99% of people ever will. But just for argument's sake, let's say you reach out to 1,000 brands. So probably realistically, 3 to 5% of those will actually respond in a positive way. And if you send at least 3 follow-ups, which again, most people will never do, but assuming you do, you can probably crank that number up to closer to 10%. So let's just say it's 10%. So out of those 1,000 people that we contacted, we'll get about 100 positive responses. Now, of those 100 positive responses, we could probably realistically get about 20% of them onto a call. So that means we would have now 20 people that we can realistically get onto a sales call. Now, assuming that you're fairly new at sales, you could probably close it around a 15% rate. So of those 20 calls that you take, you could probably close around 3 of them. Now, I know that doesn't sound like a lot of clients for the amount of work it is, but let me put it to you this way. Let's say you charge $3,500 a month for those 3 clients. That's a healthy 6-figure business. That's over $10,000 a month just from 3 clients. And honestly, once you know the process and the system and put it in place, you can kind of automate and delegate a lot of this stuff so that you don't have to be stuck in outreach and doing all this tedious stuff. You can actually have it work for you. And honestly, that's what I help my clients do. I mean, just as an example, my client Andrew did $72,000 in the last 4 months, which is an average of $18,000 a month by implementing the strategy and the blueprint I talk about in this video here. So if you want to see what that blueprint is and exactly how you can implement it for yourself, check out this video.